Kyle Crosby here in Luling with Louisiana Quick History. Ferries in Louisiana have played a vital role in the state's transportation system, allowing residents to navigate its many waterways. The first state ferry service was established in 1827, connecting Canal Street in New Orleans to Algiers. Since then, ferries have been an essential part of life for many Louisianians until they were taken away from us. As of 2020, only 5 ferries continue to operate on the Mississippi River: the Belchase-Scarsdale, East Point and West Point Tallahassee, Canal Street, Algiers, Lower Algiers, Chalmette, and Plaquemine, Sunshine. However, at one time, there were many more, including the Luling Ferry. On October 20th, 1976, the George Prince Ferry was involved in the worst ferry disaster in the history of the United States. This horrific incident took place on the Mississippi River in St. Charles Parish and resulted in the loss of 77 lives. On that fateful morning, the temperature was a chilly 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was dark as the 50-year-old George Prince Ferry made its routine crossing from Destrehan to Luling. Captain Gene Oletta was at the helm, and 95 passengers were aboard, most of whom were young men working at a nearby plant along the riverbank. As the ferry traveled nearly a mile across the river, it encountered a 22,000-ton Norwegian tanker named Frosta, which was headed upriver towards Baton Rouge. The pilot of the Frosta, Nicholas Colombo, spotted the George Prince dangerously close to the tanker's bow and signaled to the ferry multiple times. Tragically, it was too late, as a massive collision occurred. In the aftermath of the disaster, relatives and friends of those aboard the George Prince gathered on the Mississippi River levee, anxiously awaiting news of their loved ones. For days, they stood vigil, watching rescue efforts unfold. As the search continued, hard hats and lunch pails belonging to the passengers washed ashore. Louisiana Governor Edwin Edwards visited the scene to offer his condolences, and President Gerald Ford's personal emissary, Ed Foreman, was also present. The catastrophic collision prompted significant changes in maritime law. Following the incident, it was mandated that larger vessels on the river would have the right-of-way over smaller ones. Additionally, the U.S. Coast Guard instituted random drug and alcohol testing for pilots and other crew members on vessels, as a bottle of alcohol was found on premise. At the time of the accident, the Hale Boggs Memorial Bridge was under construction, located just 3/4 of a mile from the site of the disaster. Opened in 1983, this bridge ultimately ended the ferry route between Destrehan and Luling. The bell from the George Prince Ferry, a poignant reminder of that tragic day, is currently on display at the East Regional Library in Destrehan during regular library hours. The collision on October 20th, 1976 between the George Prince and the Frosta has been recognized as one of the worst maritime disasters in U.S. history and was ranked as the top story of the millennium by local press. The George Prince, measuring 120 feet, was carrying many of its passengers during its early morning journey, a route it had successfully navigated hundreds of times before. Unfortunately, frantic horn blasts and radio calls from the Frosta failed to alert the ferry's crew to the imminent danger. The Frosta collided with the George Prince, capsizing it and sending both vehicles and passengers into the cold, muddy waters of the Mississippi River. 77 lives were lost, including 19 St. Charles Parish residents and 12 from St. John the Baptist. In the wake of the incident, rescuers worked tirelessly around the clock, hoping to find survivors. Food was provided for the workers as they established temporary headquarters on the Batcha. As bodies were recovered, they were taken to the Knights of Columbus home in Norco and the local fire station. The search for victims continued until every passenger had been accounted for. An inquiry into the disaster concluded that negligence on the part of the ferry pilot was the primary cause of the tragedy. A monument was later erected at the East Bank Bridge Park in 2009 to commemorate the lives lost in this disaster. Now, the legacy of the George Prince Ferry disaster continues to resonate as a significant chapter in the story of Louisiana's waterways. Get our newsletter with exclusive offers and updates at louisianadread.com. Be sure to subscribe to Louisiana Dread on YouTube and Patreon. I'm Kyle Crosby, and this has been Louisiana Quick History, powered by Louisiana Dread.